It's time to put everything behind us. Forget about that Bears game because, guys, it's Dallas week. It's Dallas week, David.
Yes, it is. And the question for me is, can the can the Washington Commanders rather keep up with the Dallas Cowboys speed? Because I'm expecting a track meet this weekend.
Now, it's perfect to conditions, too. Nice flat turf, and you got a Dallas Cowboys defense that gives up damn near 30 points a game. Nick, hit the intro.
Hail to the Commanders! It's the Commanders Squad. Everything Washington Commanders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the nation's capital. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Rally the burgundy and gold. The Commanders Squad Show starts now.
David Harrison is out in Ashburn. Anthony Armstrong, Nick Ashooh. We've got a lot leading up to this Commanders-Cowboys game, which, listen, I will say it now, as I'm sure most people agree, it just does not have the same ring to it, but we'll work with what we got. It is what it is. We got to deal with it. We're going to look at Jayden Daniels kind of coming off of last week and some of those fumbles and the offensive issues that the team had, whether or not they're going to have a mind of a goldfish that we talk about all the time on this show. Terry McLaurin's status, the receiver status as a whole here, because that receiver room is getting smaller and smaller and more injured. Deebo Samuel's in the conversation with that as well. And what this Commanders offense can do to get back on track against the defense that is absolutely a slump buster. I mean, to the point where they make Justin Fields look like a Pro Bowl quarterback not that long ago. But let's start with David. Obviously, you're out there. You're in Ashburn. I know you got to roll in a little bit as we're doing this show live now and get ready to hear Dan Quinn talk and your responsibilities with the team today. So Terry McLaurin, as we know, has been back practicing with the team. I mean, clearly the hope is that he's back, that he's out there, that he's ready to go. What are you hearing, and what is the expectation for him against the Cowboys on Sunday?
Yeah, the expectation, Nick, is that Terry McLaurin's probably not going to be able to go. And you know, we're hoping, like you said, we're going to hear Dan Quinn here in just a little bit, and I'll be trying to drop some live updates from that press conference into the live chat as I can to keep this as up to date as possible. And hopefully we're going to get some good news, right? And potentially maybe there's just a little bit of pessimism in there. But Terry McLaurin, limited participant on Wednesday, and you're kind of thinking, okay, like maybe things are looking up. He was in the locker room, didn't do like an official scrum or anything like that, but he was in good spirits and things like that. And then boom, hit you with the DNP on Thursday. Now, is that because, well, he got really good work in Wednesday, so we want to rest him on Thursday, Anthony, before we bring him out here one more time for a light workout Friday, and then boom, he's ready for the game? Certainly possible. Is there a setback? Certainly possible. Is it something in the middle? Most likely. But I think, Anthony, a lot of us are just kind of expecting another week without Terry, but you have your fingers crossed hoping that those expectations are wrong.
You know, I heard it. This is my first time hearing about it, so I'm kind of sour on that. But I'm going to continue to preach patience and got to just say, hey, be careful with these soft tissue injuries. They could linger, and you want them to be healed up before you throw them back out there. Would love to have him this week to get the momentum going, especially a defense that gives it up. You pick it to pass, they do that. The running game, they'll do that as well. But his compadre, his other receiver, Warren Uno, what's the status of Deebo Samuel?
Yeah, so Deebo Samuel's another tricky one because, you know, him missing practice in and of itself isn't really like a damning piece of evidence because it's happened before, and Deebo's a pro, and he's had enough time in this system, and fortunately he's been able to play through this heel injury that he actually suffered in the game against the Atlanta Falcons. He's been able to push through it, but the sense is kind of like, okay, it's kind of gotten a little bit worse as he's pushed through it, and because of that now, there's not as much confidence that he's going to play this weekend. Like last weekend, it was like, all right, maybe a little bit limited, maybe not practicing fully or whatever, but we know that he's going to be able to play this week. It is a little bit more up in the air. I can't get into the full details because some of the rules of communications and covering the team, but I do have at least an elevated sense of confidence that Deebo will be available this week over, you know, more than I do with Terry. Now, how effective he'll be is also a big part of the question. Like we saw Monday night against Chicago Bears, like he was out there, but how healthy is he really? How effective is he really? But the bottom line is, I mean, when you start going through this receiver roster, and it's O'Shea, Danny, the guys on the roster, there's a serious lack of experience going on that I think speaks to this whole thing more than anything. But the idea of going into the game with, you know, say Luke McCaffrey as your number one, Chris Moore maybe as your number one as a veteran, like that's just not ideal, even against a defense that gives up a lot of yards.
I'm looking right now, if we just want to throw out some names of who's healthy right now for the Commanders at receiver. Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane, we know. Yeah. Chris Moore, his first touchdown in 3 years last week for the Commanders. And then it starts to get real deep. And these are practice squad guys on top of that, which is an interesting thing to think about as well. And a Robbie Chosen, a Tay Martin, Jacory Brooks, Jacoby Jones. I mean, you can elevate these guys. Are we, David, maybe going to see multiple guys from the practice squad end up being elevated here? Because the Deebo Samuel thing kind of feels like, even though you're essentially saying you at least feel like maybe there's an optimism there, that there's some level of availability. And I know we're not going to know everything, and there's not everything that you can, you don't want to just speculate. I understand the position that you're in, but like the reality is here, they're running out of bodies. They're running out of guys, like to the point where Anthony maybe needs to come out of retirement, which I would love to see. A couple of deep balls for Anthony. If you can still run a 3.840 or 4.3840, I can't even speak on this. Like, look at it. Like, if you can still do that, maybe at this point you'll be able to get out there on the active roster. But like David, at this point, they're going to have to activate a couple of guys. Do we see like a Jacory Brooks out there, somebody that had some flashes in the preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think no matter what happens, honestly, like unless somehow you miraculously get Terry and Deebo active for this weekend, I think you're looking at 2 practice squad elevations. Tay Martin, like literally less than an hour old. Tay Martin was actually released from the practice squad to make room for Traylon Burks, who was out here, but he's in a non-contact jersey. And, he's got about as much install on this offense as I do. So I don't know that you can expect him to be ready for this Dallas Cowboys game. But Jacory Brooks, I think, is certainly a guy you can see elevated. I think Robbie Chosen has been here for a little bit, had some time to get up to speed. You can certainly see him elevated. And look, I'll give a hat tip to Logan Paulson. He was on a radio show local here in the DMV, I think just a couple of days ago or just yesterday, and kind of talked about, like, listen, the way that offenses dictate the conversation so much, especially in today's NFL, really what the most important thing of the game is coaching and quarterback. So in a sense, you got Dan Quinn, you got Cliff Kingsbury, you got Jayden Daniels. You got a chance in this thing. So don't sell the Commanders short if you're out there. Don't get too deep into the misery pool if you're a Commanders fan if these guys don't go. But, name recognition does drive emotion, Anthony. You know that, being a part of this game as long as you have. So you want those names out there. But look, Robbie Chosen has got that experience. Jacory Brooks has had some flashes. And there's something I think that can be said about a defense going up against a young guy with something to prove, who they don't have a lot of tape on what he's capable of.
Man, look, if you have the Unk Bowl going on last night, Joe Flacco is the all-time QB just of the NFL. Like, anybody need a quarterback? Holla at Joe. He went out there and got a dub. There's something about having some unknown players that are out there where it's just like, hey, go play fast. This is just like the preseason and your chance to make the team. They're available. Yeah, you don't know them. We haven't seen them out there and operating, but as long as you got JD5 and you got Cliff, I mean, you got to think that you're going to give yourself a chance. It'd be different if you're going up against the number 1 defense in the league. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. You're not going up against the most, the highest security level of the defense right now. So there could be some possibilities that this works out well for them. I don't see it being a long-term success play. Be like, hey, let's just go out there with a whole bunch of lesser-known players. No. You're going to need to get your people back out there, but it could work out for them this week. Honestly, I don't know who to call up. I don't know. It ain't me. It ain't me, Nick. I'm not ready, but I'm right down the street. I got like 7 or 8 plays maybe, but I'm afraid I may pull a hamstring myself. So this team being in this position, it worries me a bit, but it's 1.5 point favorites on FanDuel, still, over 55, almost a 55-point over-under. There's still going to be fireworks. And hey, maybe it is the Jalen Lane. Maybe it is the Bill Croskey Merritt. Maybe it is the Luke McCaffrey Bowl, where these guys just start going off out of nowhere and making names for themselves.
It's funny you mentioned that. Jacory Croskey Merritt is the first name that I thought of. I will tell you now, I already bet the over on his rushing yards. The rushing and receiving yards aren't there for him, but like FanDuel is starting to trickle some of those props out. You guys know I'm a prop guy, but like from just a football perspective with this, like this is going to now have to be like who kind of steps up in that spot. And we joke a lot. I don't know what your latest 40 time has been, Anthony, but like if you could run a 4.4, I think maybe you could get out there. At this point, they'll take anybody. But like
the weather's realistically, nice. I may try it today, man. The weather.
I would actually love to know when was the last time you actually timed yourself running a 40?
I told you I tried it maybe a month and a half, almost 2 months ago. My son was timing, but he kept messing up the clock. So by the time I went to run the 3rd or 4th one, I pulled my quad. And I'm like, see, that's why you don't mess up whenever there's bad clock. I can't waste these reps, man. I got a few reps left. They got to be used properly. And I wasted 3 on bad clock time. And so it's going to be somewhere between 4 and 6. We're probably closer to the 4 side.
And listen, I mean, Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey may be the guys that are just getting a ton of targets in this game. And, we've talked about them quite a bit, and they're obviously really valuable from a special teams perspective. But let's also say now that Deebo Samuel, even if he's out there with the heel, not 100%, we certainly didn't see the normal Deebo we've had this year against the Bears. That really comes down to Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane, both as receivers, and also David on special teams. So, it's not just going to be necessarily about what they can do in the passing game, but it's also going to be about McCaffrey or Jalen Lane giving them good field position with some good returns out there too. All those little things are really going to contribute to this team kind of making up for some of the losses that they might have out there offensively.
Yeah, I mean, a game like this and an offense like this dealing with this many injuries, the game of inches, that 1 inch, it almost becomes a full yard. You know what I mean? As far as value is concerned. And, if Luke McCaffrey can break a big one and get you, to the plus 45, that's just doing God's work right there. And look, this could also be, a situation. And again, the injuries are obviously going to play a big part of it. You can only call up 2 practice squad guys, but maybe this is a week Chase Edmonds gets up, because don't forget Chris Rodriguez Jr. also hasn't been practicing. I'm not sure what his status is here for Friday, but he also hasn't been practicing. And that Cowboys defense not great against the run either. So if you can do a combination of just grind the ball on the clock or on the ground, grind that clock down, then use some well-timed passes and all that stuff, and maybe you can get Chris Moore free, one-on-one coverage and get him behind a guy like you did last week. The good news, I think, when you look at Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane potentially having to be leaned on a little bit more than usual, and even just other guys in the passing game, right? John Bates, Zach Ertz, is the Cowboys give up a lot out of the slot. They have a lot of passing yards out of the slot, and Zach Ertz, you can play him as that, super big slot, you know what I mean? Break him off the line of scrimmage and line him up there, take advantage of a size mismatch. Jalen Lane, we all kind of looked at him as maybe like a future Deebo type of, weapon. Maybe this is a week where you unveil some of that. And then Luke McCaffrey, was billed as a big slot. He'll play some on the perimeter as well, but you have enough guys that if you can take advantage of that Cowboys slot defense deficiency, Anthony, then you can cover up some of the absences.
When you were mentioning Rodriguez, all this, especially with the time of the year that we're getting in, week 7, week 8 trade deadline stuff, it makes me feel like there's some other moves that could be happening in the midst. And frankly, at this point, we need to make those moves. Nothing's going to happen before this game, obviously, but flipping to look at the running attack, if Dallas gives up 100, and I've got it right here, 142 yards per game, Washington carries the ball 151 yards per game. Is it not making the most sense to lean even heavier towards that, since you have shown the propensity to do it well, and then you have a team that gives it up? But Cliff tends to go and attack the passing attack for whatever reason whenever he has teams that give up a lot of rushing yards. So I'm interested to see how they attack and they start this game with their mentality, getting behind their pads, running the ball. Why would they have a Chris Rodriguez down? I'm interested to see about that. That'd be a question. I want to hear some answers about that one.
Yeah, you know how I feel about Chris Rodriguez. I'd love to see him get some more carries and just some more opportunities in this game. And it may just be a numbers thing where they're like, okay, we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to get some other guys involved. Listen, if there was ever a week to be missing a bunch of weapons offensively, though, it's against Dallas and this defense, which has been, they are a slump buster. Again, Justin Fields, we saw what he just did overseas last week. All right. Yeah. We also saw what he did against Dallas 2 weeks ago. So it's like you look at these situations and go, Dallas is a defense that you can take advantage of, even if Terry McLaurin and, let's say, God forbid, Deebo Samuel's also out in this game. Dallas is last in yards allowed, passing yards allowed, third down percentage, all through the first 6 weeks of the season. They are absolutely as bad as a defense could possibly be. Receivers are running free all over their secondary right now. They're getting pushed around at the line of scrimmage. We saw that against the Panthers in that loss. And I look at this and go, even if you don't have Terry McLaurin, even if you're missing some of these really important names, this is an opportunity for other players to get those chances, those targets. And by the way, you still have Jayden Daniels. He's healthy, and that's something that's massively important. But it's one of those spots where you do say, look, injuries are part of it. I get it. This is how the season goes, David. But if there was ever a week to say, okay, we can, if a guy's even, let's say, iffy, this kind of feels one of those weeks where you say, let's keep you down. Let's keep you out of this game because we have confidence in some of our depth and some of our younger guys that can contribute in ways against the Dallas defense that just can't stop anybody right now.
Yeah, this is certainly a game where, even without some of those key players, you can see the Commanders come out here and put up 27 to 30 points and things like that. I think the big question for this weekend, really, to me, is going to rest on the defensive side. I kind of talked about in the opening there, the track meet aspect of this game. The Cowboys getting CeeDee Lamb back and Kevontae Turpin. I think Jayden Blue, their rookie running back, who's going to get an extended amount of work this week because of injury. I think that he is a little bit of a dark horse to be a major impact in this game. Guys, I'll be honest with you, you look at this defense. This is the defense that gave up 40 points to the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers are no slouches, right? But 40 points is a lot of points, no matter who you are. Like you said, made the Jets look like all pros, but they also scored 40 points against the Green Bay Packers, right? Like, this team can score points in bunches, and that's where I get concerned. I don't know that in a track meet situation, I don't know that this team, the Commanders team, comes out with a win unless they have at least 2 takeaways in this game. And that could come via turnover on downs as well. I know it doesn't register in the stat box as a takeaway, but it's a drive that you are taking away from the opponent with the opportunity to score points. And Brian Schottenheimer, knowing that you're going up against an offense that can put up points, knowing you're going up against, who I think is the most dynamic quarterback in the NFC East, challenging to be the most dynamic in the NFC. We'll talk about the league later, but knowing that, does that push him as a rookie head coach into a situation where maybe you got 4th and 3, and typically you take that field goal, but because of the offense on the other side and the quarterback on the other side of the field, you go for it. That defense gets that takeaway. That's points off the board for the Cowboys. You give the ball back to Jayden. Like I said, at least 2 takeaways, if not interceptions, fumbles, get them in a situation where they feel like they got to go for it on 4th down, and you stop that opportunity. Something. They've got to manufacture some sort of defense here. To their credit, the Commanders' scoring defense is like 12th in the league, giving up a ton of yards. They're doing really well in the red zone. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is make this track meet be a relay. It's got to be leg to leg to leg. Don't give up that long sprint to a CD, to Kevontae Turpin, to someone like that. Get them in the red zone, because the Cowboys' offense, Anthony, also not very good in the red zone because they rely on speed so much, and speed doesn't win in short areas.
Yeah, it works well into your bend but don't break mentality on the defensive side. Yeah, you don't love it all the time, but that's what we have right now. Another thing to think about is this. I'm thinking about the matchup between George Pickens and Marshawn Lattimore, and I'm talking about keeping your mind in the game, having your mental stay the same. Because George Pickens is a guy that will pick at you. He will kind of get underneath your skin, and I don't want to see any penalties of unsportsmanlike conduct. So those things can come into play as well. And yes, 40 points is a lot. In the one game that the Cowboys didn't score that many points, they had 4 turnovers against the Bears. So having that type of a performance would be great. One guy who's coming back home, Dorrance Armstrong. I wonder how his impact is going to be, seeing if he can get to Dak and put them into long distance situations. And with it, when they have Brandon Aubrey as a weapon, frankly, they're with Dallas is starting about on the 30. They're only 1 first down away from actually being into points. So it will be interesting to see how they want to play on the defensive side. If Joe Witt's going to dial it up with a little bit more pressure or not, Nick. So I know David has to get out of here. He's got to run. So let's let David get out of here. We can keep this conversation rocking.
All right, David, you head out. Keep us posted in the chat because we're doing this live. Anybody that's watching or listening later, obviously that's a little bit of a different story, but we'll get what updates we can from Dan Quinn, from David in the chat here for anybody that's watching us streaming this now on YouTube. And, of course, the next big thing that we're going to look at, Jayden Daniels, does he have that mind of a goldfish? Does he forget what happened against the Bears heading into this game against the Cowboys on Sunday, a game that obviously means a ton from a division perspective as well? We'll look at that next here on Commander's Squad. And we're brought to you by BetterHelp. October 10th was World Mental Health Day, and this year we're saying thank you, therapists. Life can be tough on and off the field, and behind millions of mental health journeys are therapists who showed up instead and helped people take a step forward. BetterHelp is shining the spotlight on those connections while also making it simple for you to find the support that you need. Therapy moments can be life-changing, whether it's learning to better connect with your kids, healing a relationship, or finding healthy ways to manage stress. This World Mental Health Day, join us in celebrating the therapists who've helped millions take a step forward. If you're ready to start your own journey, BetterHelp can help you find the right therapist. So listeners are getting 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, Anthony. So I want to look at Jayden Daniels specifically here now, because we had that chance to really get kind of what some of these receivers are looking like in practice and whether or not they're going to be out there Sunday. But whether or not Terry McLaurin or Deebo Samuel or anybody's out there, and David will again try to give us some more updates as he can if you're obviously watching us live now, you still have Jayden Daniels. You still have somebody that's a game-changing quarterback on his own. This does kind of feel to me a little bit like we're going to be looking at a situation, and we hate to see it at times, but you can't suppress it. He might have to run more in this game. He might have to use his legs. This may be a Jayden Daniels takeover game a little bit. Like you mentioned the total in this, it's a 54.5, but if the Commanders are missing like multiple receivers, where does that offense come from? It may come from Bill Croskey, Merritt, and Jayden Daniels for the most part.
I mean, those two guys are going to team up, and it's one of those ones where I don't need Jayden to necessarily be a superhuman, be Superman, and just try to will his way through every single drive. But I think it's honestly just make solid decision making. He mentioned how he lost focus at that one snap, and if he's anything like we know him to be and what we've heard about the guy, he had been maniacal this whole entire week about being focused and locked in. If he understands he doesn't have his top two guys, his most veteran receivers out there, he's going to be that much more locked in and dialed in with his young receivers. I don't see him just going out there like, you just herding little ducklings who don't know what they're doing. He's probably held extra meetings. He's probably said, hey, all y'all young cats, come in here. Make sure we know what the communication is. Because if it's not clear, it's going to look like crap on field. And you'll be able to tell early and often. So pay attention to pre-snap penalties, or how late do they get out of the huddle, or the play calls getting in, or people confused about getting lined up. That stuff can't happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's because Jayden cleared it up throughout the week. And I think his preparation and coming into this is really going to help settle the waters and any uncertainty that you have at that receiver position.
And listen, the Cowboys defense is trash, but it's not like the Commanders defense has been that much better this year. The missed tackles, and I get it. It's a lot of bend, don't break. Their red zone, they've certainly been stronger in the red zone, like David brought up before. And yeah, that's true. But the reality is, like, Dak Prescott could carve them up. And I think that's something that's incredibly concerning. Look, CeeDee Lamb looks like he's going to be back. So that's going to be a whole other issue that they're going to have to deal with the secondary right there. Look, generating turnovers matters. Extra possessions for the offense, getting them out there, more opportunities, short fields to score. Like, the little things for Washington are going to matter that much more in this, because you're likely missing Terry McLaurin. Maybe Deebo Samuel's out there, but he's not 100%. Just to start, Dak Prescott, listen, for all of the conversation about how much Dak got paid, Dak Prescott as a regular season quarterback in the past and this year, dude's damn good. He's got 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. At home, his quarterback rating is even better at home. Shocking. I think we should all expect that. He's got a 109 quarterback rating, 5 touchdowns, a pick at home. Like, he's comfortable. And this offense hums. And this offense puts up points in Dallas, which is one of the reasons why, like you brought up, like, the total in this game is 54.5. It really could be a shootout, which also does involve, by the way, they've talked about the sunlight and it affecting the offense and the curtains and all that, which I cannot wait, because all I want to see is Jerry say that we don't need curtains out there and we don't need to block ourselves any of the sun. I want it to be a beautiful stadium there, Anthony. But, like, realistically, you look at this and go, this could end up being the first to 30, 35 points in this game actually wins it, because neither defense really has an opportunity to stop anybody else here. It's Dak Prescott versus Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, you could have one of those great perennial shootouts for sure. I mean, old West shootouts, you know what I mean? Just meet me down there in front of the saloon, take 10 paces and turn around and I mean, I went through one of those. I think it was 35-33 back in 2010 playing against Dallas. Look, Dallas scores 29 points a game. Their defense gives up 30. Washington scores 26 points a game. Their defense gives up 21. So, yeah, I'm playing that over. You got defenses that let people run wide open. And frankly, Dallas is still going to be dangerous just because of that offense. My deal is you don't want to play into being too much of a shootout. If you can steal a possession, that's awesome. But for me, I want to see the offense finish their drives too. All right, don't settle. You can't settle for field goals. You mentioned it earlier. Will Brian Schottenheimer go for that 4th and 3? Hell, will Dan Quinn go for it? Right? I think that this is one. Maybe you have to play that more. Play to be on the field. Don't look to give the ball back. Who has the ball? It's going to be like arena football. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to an arena football game, but it was like 69 to 65. Oh, yes. Touchdowns up and down. Oh, hopefully it ain't that many points, but it's going to be touchdowns all over AT&T Stadium.
Dude, arena football is so much fun to watch. Like, it really was. Like, I know you've got the full-on experience there. That is, if you love offense, that's the way to go. But I'm with you. Like, there has to be some level of defense from the Commanders' perspective in this. And it's just, some of it's just going to be better tackling. Like, it's a simple fundamental that's there, but like, they're going to be in a position where like one missed tackle. We obviously saw that DeAndre Swift in the big 55-yard touchdown that he had last week. I mean, it's still this week, but you know what I mean? Week 6. It's like those little things right there could be the difference maker in this, where Dallas ends up, breaking a big, 50-yard touchdown, and that changes the whole trajectory of this game, and you're playing from behind. That's one of the things that I'm really concerned about, is just even if this offense can keep pace with what they're given, right? Like, even if they put up 30, like, they may still lose 35-30 or something in this game. And that's the difficult thing. There is a lot of pressure on this Washington defense this weekend to generate turnovers and not get beat like a drum in the secondary.
Man, I'm going to say this. Look, I'm going to take a little pressure off of them. I just need one. Just need one.
Just
right?
one.
You don't need to go out and get 4, because I'll say Dallas is on a 3-game streak of without getting a turnover. Without having a turnover. And then on the flip side, their defense has created a turnover. So both sides, you got to protect the ball. Well, offense, don't give it up. And defense, I just need one. If you can get one turnover and the offense stays efficient, which I feel like they will, then you're going to end up finding a way to win this game. You're going to have the ball in the last, on that last possession to decide how this thing is going to end. You just need one turnover, because you're going against an offense that's really good. And I don't want to walk in and say, hey, Lattimore, you need to hold Pickens or CeeDee Lamb to under 50-yard receiving. As a unit, some of those things may happen, but those guys are going to eat. It is big on just running up and tackling. Jake Ferguson, one of the better tight ends in the league, he's going to create a matchup problem here or there. But if you're able to steal a possession, just one, that's going to be helpful. See, one turnover, like I say, Blaine Bolin, one turnover could be the deciding factor. I think you're going to get, efficient on both sides, but it's just the one turnover. If it's a fumble, even if it's something on special teams, if you can get a hold of Cavante Turpin, you know how he is. Yes. Get the ball out. Just give the ball back to your offense at one good time. That can really turn the tide in this thing. And you just can't get upset about people being wide open, because that's just how this team has been playing. What I don't want to see is George Pickens catch a slant and run between everybody like he did against the Panthers. Like, you can't have those type of performances. You got to just give yourself a chance to live another down. And if they're not as good in the red zone, then hey, let them get down to the 20 and then really, really lock up. But you got to find a way just to get one possession. That's the magic number, one turnover.
And it's, you mentioned special teams, and that may be the difference in either direction, whether it's a turnover or it's a great, one big return that leads to a touchdown, or it's a kick return for a touchdown. Because as great as Washington's return game is, Cavante Turpin, we know what the ceiling is, but we know what the floor can be. There can be some mistakes. He's a little guy, you pop him, fumbles the ball, but he also can run it back for a touchdown. Like, that ability is also there. So this game may just come down to that, where it's a shootout. Neither defense is stopping anybody, and the difference is who's better on special teams, which always gets overlooked until somebody misses a field goal or somebody returns a kick for a touchdown. And we know Dallas has the better kicker. Like, there's no arguing there. The best kicker in the NFL kicks for the Dallas Cowboys. So, unfortunately, that's just going to be a matchup there where, again, it's indoors, so that helps Matt Gay a little bit there, and hopefully no missed field goals. But, special teams could really be something that does determine the outcome of this game. Something I was thinking about when we were talking about this, and I haven't had a chance to ask you. Now, I can't remember over your career specific injuries, but everybody gets hurt. Everybody's been there. When you were in those positions, like Terry McLaurin's, right? Like, your injury, you're kind of on your way back. You're almost there. You're feeling good, but you're not necessarily 100%. Like, how did you specifically kind of work through I want to push through it versus, like, if I push too much, I might re-injure it? Like, because I know that's a mental game that you've really got to weigh the options with.
There is, you get into the biology of it. There's some fascia on top of the muscle that gets knotted up. And sometimes that could be the mental thing that you're missing. You think it's still the muscle that's injured, but it's really the fascia that's not smoothed out. I had great doctors. I learned from Santana Moss, so I ended up having some great doctors to help. But what I knew is if I wasn't able to bring my superpower to the table, then I didn't need to get out there. And my superpower was being able to run really fast. And if I'm not able to run at full speed, I can't clear out defenses and create the gaps and affect the game the way that I could at my best. So I had to sit out a couple extra weeks if need be to be able to get back to running full speed. So for Terry, he's a deep threat. He's a guy that's going to create a lot of attention on the defense. If he's not running at full speed, it's really not that beneficial. I mean, I know you go way back, Mike Shanahan and Terrell Davis at the goal line. He's like, I can't see. He's like, yeah, but they won't believe it if you're not in there. It's that same type of vibe. But Terry McLaurin at 70%, I'm not going to believe it. Somebody will cover him one-on-one, and they know that he's not going to make an impact. So that's where it's got to be at. I know that he wants to get back out there. I know that his presence would be felt, but if he's not able to truly impact how the defense is going to affect the offense, then I say wait another week.
And that's one of the dilemmas that's obviously there is like, can you be out there just as a distraction, just as a decoy alone, even if somebody's not close to 100%? Because, yeah, any defensive coordinator, you're not going to be stupid. Like, Eberflus isn't going to be dumb and sit there and just go, yeah, we don't cover Terry. He's still not 100%. Like, great, don't. I would love that for that, for that to be the case. But the reality is you've still got to at least have a game plan for a receiver like Terry McLaurin, even if he's 85, 90%, whatever the case is. Then there's the mental side of this too. And Jayden Daniels on the mental side is really something to just keep an eye on. Like, we joke a lot about the mind of a goldfish, memory of a goldfish, whatever, forgetting, moving forward. I'm not really worried about Jayden Daniels' confidence. I'm not. I mean, again, you see him, he makes a mistake, he smiles, shakes it off, which is fine as long as the mistakes don't continue. I did see a little bit, and I know this is social media, but there were some, look at Jayden Daniels smiling after this loss to the Bears. Okay, calm down, pump the brakes. Like, but you know how that image starts to create that, like, it's great if you make the mistake, smile, shake it off, and you're better than that. This is going to be a really important game for Jayden Daniels just from that perspective, to shake off some of the mistakes, that handoff to Bill Croskey Merritt late that led to the game-winning field goal for the Bears. Little bit of a shorter week, but you got a 4:25 kickoff, so it's not necessarily going to be, it's not like it's a really short week. But like, all of these things coming together, I really want to see how Jayden Daniels looks in this game just from a mental perspective. Has he shaken that off? Has he forgotten what happened against the Bears? Has he put all of that behind him? I would anticipate that that's the case, but that's something that you actually still have to see on the field.
You think you're going to see a sharper, more focused, Jayden Daniels. Is he going to still smile from time to time? Sure. That's his personality. That's just who he is. The biggest thing about his whole press conference, I'm glad that he took responsibility. He took accountability for it. They had conversations in the locker room about that, and he probably had already addressed the team. And frankly, this was the first time that we've had to see Jayden Daniels in that type of a position where he's like, hey, man, I messed up. Right? Everything had been going perfect. So this is the first time to see how he bounces back from that. So I'm very intrigued to see. But I think you're going to get a guy that's been so focused all week that he's not going to let a mistake happen. He's probably going to be so surgical with how he operates this offense. And you were talking about the receivers he has. I was thinking about his time at LSU. I think he had a couple of really young receivers. He turned a freshman group of receivers, a couple of them into some first-round draft picks. So maybe we don't have to trip so much. Maybe he knows what he's going up against, and he's going to show up with his best possible performance. So Jayden, look, he's going to be ready. He's going to be ready. You don't put up another performance. You don't let the ball slip through your hands. You don't dare have that back-to-back performance like that, especially where that game ended on Monday night. So he's going to put up some lights. He's going to put up some fireworks on Sunday.
And that's the difference between a good quarterback, a great quarterback, and an elite quarterback, is putting that behind him and also being able to handle the adversity. And now it's official, we do have breaking news from Dan Quinn. David just gave it to us. Terry McLaurin is ruled out against the Cowboys on Sunday. Everyone else is heading into the weekend available, according to Dan Quinn. McLaurin is, quote, just not ready yet, but they're closer. So this maybe is the last week that, again, we can't read into it, but maybe, Anthony, that this is the last week that Terry McLaurin is out. We see him next week against Kansas City, which that's a Monday night game. That's another, these are the types of things you have to kind of plan ahead for. It might be a track meet again when you're dealing with that Kansas City offense, even when sometimes you look at them and go, what are they doing? The Chiefs find a way. The point is now there will be no Terry McLaurin against the Cowboys. We don't have to sit. We don't have to speculate in what this offense is going to look like. But it sounds like everybody else right now heading into the weekend available, which does also include Deebo Samuel, which even if he's not 100%, it goes back to that decoy thing you were talking about, right? Where any defensive coordinator is going to sit and look and say, whoa, we still got Deebo out there. We got to pay attention to him, even if he's dealing with some sort of heel injury.
Having Deebo out there will be paramount right now. I said that we can have success without him, but you definitely know Terry's out. I want to know how good Deebo's going to be feeling. Those heels can be annoying, but maybe it's not as much as a deep routes. Put him in positions where he just gets the ball quickly, some quick screens, maybe a couple of drags. I see Archie's dropping in here saying he wants to see a couple of different routes from the route tree just to get the ball into people's hands. I think there's going to be a couple of ways that you can affect it. Running the ball, throwing the ball to Deebo on those short ones, so he doesn't necessarily have to start and stop so much, because he may have a heel bruise, and those things are annoying when you're trying to run at full speed and then push your foot in the ground and stop. So get him something that's shorter, something that he can have an impact on, but not necessarily have to get too far down the field. Renell says, so maybe Armstrong is going to play then. I'm checking for my phone right now to see if I got a missed text message from nothing from Dan Quinn just yet, but I will keep y'all updated. If y'all see me running out there, y'all be like, damn, they really digging down deep into the pot. But I'll put my best foot forward, Renell. I promise you I will.
And listen, as long as you're at least getting near, you could be out there as a decoy too. They're like, look, he could still take a defense over the top. There's still something out
like
there.
Fans on the field. What's he doing? Guy showed up in his helmet. Old throwback jersey. Look, my kids saw some old tape. Well, obviously old tape. They saw a game from 2010, the Packers game, matter of fact. And my son is looking. He's like, are those throwback jerseys? And I'm like, well, no, but yes. He's like, wow, it looks vintage, Dad. I was like, thanks, son. Thank you very much. I'm vintage now.
Well, listen, it happens quickly. Life comes at you fast, as they say, right? I mean, we all look back and it's either a bad haircut or something we wore, a picture when Google Photos pops up and it's like 8 years ago, and you look and you're like, what? Like how? So we all go through it. The difference is yours was just on national TV a lot in an NFL game. So there's a lot more of that, did you tell them that those are actually the real uniforms? And
I was trying to go down the history of the team and how we made it through 2 other iterations to get to where we were. He wasn't ready for that yet. He wasn't ready for that history. So we'll save it for maybe another couple of weeks or maybe next year. We'll get him filled in.
Well, they'll start wearing them a little bit this year and hopefully incorporate them more, and then we'll eventually just get back to those uniforms, the Redskins uniforms, and then it'll all be something that people go, oh, yeah, this looks a lot better. Though, I know I'm in the minority here. I love the black unis, but they just lost to the Bears, so they'll probably never wear them again because that's how it goes. All right, so Terry McLaurin is out officially. It looks like everybody else is on track to play for Washington in terms of the injuries that we've talked about, which at least at this point tells us Deebo Samuel, which is hopefully the case if anything else comes out. David, who's listening to Dan Quinn now, will give us the insight and let us know what's going on there. But there is one issue that we have not gotten to that continues to be a massive problem for the Commanders. Can they fix that issue next? It's Commanders Squad. But they are also brought to you by Prize Picks, and every day we make decisions. On Prize Picks, the right can actually get you paid. So don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is a lot of fun, and you can do it everywhere too, which is nice. In some states, that's the only option you got, and it's a great one. Simple way to add more excitement to football. You all love that. You want a little something extra. You want a little, just something that kind of gets your juices flowing throughout the week, right? Leading you up to Sunday, maybe. You just have to pick more or less on a player's projections, and I love that. That's a big thing for me. I would go absolutely more when it comes to Jacory, Croskey, Merritt, and his rushing yards. I think we're going to see a lot of Jacory, Croskey, Merritt, a lot of Bill. Josh Allen's passing yards, Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown. Those are other options that are going to be out there as well. You do that, you're in the game, you got a little something extra. It's easy, it's simple. You can set your lineup in under a minute. You don't have to dedicate a ton of time that's there. You just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first lineup. Prize Picks. Oh, it's good to be right. Anthony, you know how sick I am of these slow starts for the Commanders. I am tired of watching this team dig themselves holes in the first quarter. Every post-game show, I've always looked at anything from the score is easy, but we look at the total yards, we look at the penalties, we look at all these things. This is finally a chance for the Commanders. this Sunday, I think, to get things right and get off to a faster start in the first quarter, because right now they're 30th in points per game in the first quarter. The Commanders are averaging 2.3 points a game in the first quarter so far this year through the first 6 weeks of the season. They're 24th in first quarter points allowed. Now it's 6, which doesn't sound like a huge number, but when you get outscored 36-14 through the first 6 games of the season in the first quarter alone, that is how you dig yourself bad holes. That is how you make it more difficult for an offense to have to play catch up, to have to move forward, and more pressure on a defense that's already struggling at times, that's already having their issues with basic things like tackling consistently. So for all of the stuff that's gone on in the first quarter, for all of the frustrations that everybody certainly had, and Dan Quinn's talked about and trying to figure out, and this is an opportunity now. 2 things here. One, it's an opportunity against this Dallas defense to get off to a better start in the first quarter, not dig themselves that hole. But 2, you're also up against, like we talked about, this Cowboys offense, which is very potent and has weapons and has guys in George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb coming back, guys that can make big plays, get you big touchdowns, chunk yardage, all of these things. If Washington falls behind in the first quarter, if these Commanders sit there down 10-0, 13-0, whatever the case is, after the first quarter, against this Cowboys offense, it's going to be that much harder. I'm not going to use the word impossible, but it's going to be damn hard for them, with Terry McLaurin out again as well, for them to make a comeback, for them to climb out of that hole, for them to put themselves in a position to win this game if it's a 2-score game after the first quarter against Dallas.
Can't have any self-sabotage for sure, because if you get behind, you will stay behind in this matchup. There's fun little bets on there that says you could pick who the first half winner is and then the end of the regulation winner is. And I feel like that, Dallas could be the first half winner, but then Washington will prevail, but they cannot put themselves way behind. 2 points in the first quarter. That's not because they got safeties, team. That's because they got a couple field goals. In some games, they got nothing. Nada.
Big goose eggs. Goose eggs, my friend.
Goose eggs, all right? That's not a good thing. That's not a good place to be, and this is not the week to cut. Hell, the next few weeks is not the weeks to try to do that, try to come out slow. So just because I'm saying run the ball doesn't mean you're not going to score points. It's just showing that you're going to be consistent with what's already been working to come out and get this thing rolling. It's always felt experimental, right? Some weeks they want to experiment and try some things and get some things rolling. It ends up being a 3-and-out. They end up punting eventually. Now you got to go straight to what you know is working, go straight to the bread and butter and start putting up points, because this is going to be 60 minutes of offense on both sides. It's basically routes on there for both offenses. I don't know what defense is going to show up, but yeah, you got to get started early. No slow going. I need a touchdown at least in this first quarter from this offense.
Yeah, this feels like a game to me too, and I want to look and see if I can get any numbers on like Terry McLaurin, or not Terry McLaurin, on Jayden Daniels specifically, because again, it goes back to like a lot of Jayden in this game, and I think if they can set the tone early. So if you want to look at any props, whether you dabble in this or not, it just gives you kind of an idea of maybe how the game could go and sort of how, sports books feel. FanDuel's got Jayden Daniels rushing yards set at 45.5. which I feel like he's going to have to be in a spot where he goes over that number. He's carrying the ball 13, 14 times a game in this, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of just maybe an actual play call. But like, this is a spot here where I feel like we're going to be looking at a significant amount of Jayden Daniels. One, because the opportunities are going to be there against this defense. But two, with Terry McLaurin out and Deebo a little bit banged up, you're just going to have to be in those moments where he's Superman in this game. And sometimes, right, like, you don't want him to be in that position where he's got to run for his life and you don't want him taking hits. You want him getting out of bounds. You want him sliding, all these things. But elite quarterbacks sometimes just throw the team on their shoulder. We see Josh Allen do this all the time. We see Patrick Mahomes do this all the time. They throw their team on their shoulder and say, I got you. This may be an I got you game for Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, man. You got to look at 5 and be like, hey, we rolling. We going to do this thing today. Look, he's going to have some very talented and fast linebackers that are going to be spying him. Just trust and believe that's going on. Overshown is over there. There's some athleticism at that spot. Hell, across the defensive line, Kenny Clark's going to be applying pressure. Oso Odigizua, one of the best D linemen in the game. They're going to be applying pressure. They're going to have a plan to try to set the net. Obviously, we know Eberflus was at Chicago last year, and you go think about how that team played against him in the Hail Mary game. So there could be some of those similar type of schemes, but there's going to be some opportunities there for him to make some plays down the field. When you run with your legs, I want to see him also take his step up and keep his eyes down to try to work a little scramble drill. You mentioned what Josh Allen does. He'll run all the way to the sideline and still try to throw the rock. So if he's in tune with these young receivers and whoever's filling in for Terry, being it Luke, whomever, if he can be in tune with them on scramble drills, that could be a way to create some chunk plays and stay on the field on third downs and really frustrate this defense. So Jayden Daniels' decision-making, put that at the top of the list of what needs to be primo A1 grade A Kobe beef this week, baby. It's got to be Jayden Daniels being prime time with his decisions.
It's funny because it wasn't that long ago, and I know Dan Quinn was there, that Dallas had, a defense that was generating turnovers. We know the interceptions. We know the erosion of Dallas's defense over the last few years has been, it just feels like it accelerated so quickly. Again, some of it is Dan Quinn leaving, different scheme, different coaches, different thing. When you watch Dallas's defense through just this season alone, like, is it more like a scheme? Is it more based on talent, personnel? Like, what do you see in this defense from your perspective as a receiver that, like, you would even want to take advantage of if you were out there right now for the Commanders?
Well, I think one thing, you'd be remiss if you didn't mention that they're missing the one of the best pass rushers in the game, right? Mm-hmm. When you trade away Micah Parsons, it changes how you can play in your secondary. It's kind of similar to Washington, right? You have good corners that can make plays on the football, and they were able to take chances because they knew teams had to throw it quicker. So they could sit on some routes and they would jump the hitches. They would jump those 12-yard curls. They could be right in that because teams are like, hey, Micah Parsons is over there. Well, now things are changed. You don't have as much pressure that's generated, so offenses can attack further downfield, and you can manipulate those DBs. So taking some double moves, trying to take advantage of somebody's eyes being in the backfield, be it Diggs or Bland. Those are the things that you're seeing teams take advantage of now. Dallas is just going to have to play tighter. Similar things I'm saying to Washington on the defensive side, but whenever you know that you're going to have time to run the routes, and as the quarterback, if you can trust your protection and say, okay, I'm going to have time to let these routes develop, that's when you have some big money that's out there. And you're also seeing some scheming up where they're able to get wide receivers on safeties. So can you get matched up with number 6 out there in the secondary? Are you going to get matched up with people who don't cover receivers that often? That's going to be big too. So scheme and protection up front, knowing that there's not as much of a pass rush because there's no Parsons, that helps you out in the secondary, and a lot of patience at that quarterback position.
It's funny, man. It's still weird to me to see Micah Parsons in a Packers uniform. It really is. Like, I'm so glad. Again, I hope Jerry Jones lives to 100 and continues to make these horrible decisions, because it's not like they're 2-3-1 right now. It's not like Dallas has gotten better, but the way that he negotiates and the way that this has gone down, and CeeDee Lamb calling him out publicly before, like, it just continues to be such a soap opera with the Cowboys. Don't tell me in Dallas that your focus is on winning first in a Super Bowl. No. It's about Jerry Jones winning the negotiation. And let me tell you something. I love it. And I hope Jerry Jones stays there and he's running the team, Anthony, forever, because it's good for everybody in business when Jerry Jones is in charge.
Man, with Micah on the Packers, it feels like somebody got onto your game and made a trade and didn't tell you, and they waiting for you to play, and you're like, what the hell is Parsons? And here he is in green over there waving at you, and you're like, oh yeah, I made that trade, bro. Like that, yeah. People a little frustrated down here. I'm in group chats with a lot of folks, they Dallas fans, and they're very frustrated. They're like, man, I wish we had this or we had that, and like, you know what? Things ain't gonna change for a while. You're probably gonna have the same type of thing going on until there's a change in the guard, but who knows when that's gonna happen.
I did hold out hope that Dan Quinn was going to recruit him, but that's not going to happen now with the massive extension he signed in Green Bay. But it sounded like he was hinting at it for a while. He wanted to get back reunited with Dan Quinn again. So
I mean, that's the type of player you got to find space for. If that were to happen, we'd have found a way. We'd have figured. We'd have been okay. Sorry, we had to let these players go. Thank you for your service. But now you got somebody that can get after the quarterback every single play.
Hey, listen, you can never have enough pass rushers in the NFL. I think we've all learned that. You want to protect the quarterback's blind side. You want to get after the other quarterback's blind side with those pass rushers. So that's certainly what you got. All right, we're going to look ahead. What happens on Sunday? Cowboys, Commanders. It's Commanders squad. And Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. All right. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else, from footwork to breath work. Athletes sweat all of the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every single model, and you can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls with all-wheel drive, standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost every single season. Like our players, they sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. I do wonder, honestly, Anthony, how much we are going to have the conversation about the sun. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know where the sun's going to be at what time in this game. But, like, if you even kind of look and, prepping for this game and looking at stuff and game previews and conversations and the way, Brian Schottenheimer's even talked about this, like the sun and the bright light coming in this time of day, it is a conversation. You remember it last year with CeeDee Lamb and dropping and like, you look at this and go, how is this still a discussion? Yet it is absolutely still a discussion. If I had to make a wild prediction in this game, at some point, the sunlight is going to be a factor. And maybe that's it. Maybe we've completely missed it this entire show so far. It's not special teams. It's not turnovers. It's not secondary. It's not tackles. Not anything.
It's Mother Nature.
It's Mother Nature, even at an indoor stadium, having a say in how this game is actually dictated. And it would be just so beautiful if it somehow affects the Cowboys winning this game, and that's all the conversation that Jerry Jones has to deal with after the game, I'll just kick back and be like, oh yeah, just enjoying the show at that point.
Man, look, I'm gonna tell you what, that's why it's even that much more important to put up the points when you get the chance, because when that sun gets to peering down and it goes through them glass, you can't see a thing. I mean, I've seen the shots. You're like, yeah, that's pretty bright. And even though the ball is supposed to go your way, you look back as a receiver, you can't see a thing. Hell, as a defender, you got to be opportunistic. All right, the ball may just show up in your hands at one point. Grab that ball, catch it, intercept it, and make sure it stays on our side, because it's going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen. Maybe it affects the play calling. I'm interested to see how that goes. But yeah, there's somebody going to be blinded, and even on the defensive side, they may be blinded. You can put them into the glare of the sun, and then, hey, I run the post, but I'm gonna go into the to the glare of the sun first. That way he can't see where I'm at. But it's gonna happen. It's gonna be all over the broadcast too. I'm interested to see how many times they mention. I'm thinking over under 3.5 for me. I'm going over.
It's funny too. So you talk about it being like a part of the game plan and something. Brian Schottenheimer, remember, was the offensive coordinator the last couple of years there too. Like, he has said that this is something that they pay attention to. This quote is wild from him, okay? He said, quote, "We have satellite imaging. We have pictures of the sun when it's coming down. There's a big plan and a process." Think about this. You've already got a game plan for Jayden Daniels, but now you've also got a game plan for the sun, for the sunlight in your stadium. But the best part, too, is he then plays it down. It's like, but I think when you look at it historically at what's happened, it really hasn't affected many situations. We plan for it. The opponents plan for it. But at the end of the day, it's something that we're aware of. It's very beautiful. It's majestic when the sun comes through here. Oh, it's amazing.
We ain't getting no damn curtains.
Can you believe that? To talk about the majestic sun if you're Brian Schottenheimer, because you know what happened. This is Jerry Jones getting in his ear going, now I want you to know that they're going to have a conversation about the sun. We've checked the satellite imaging, but damn it, I want you to make sure that you talk about how beautiful it is, because I want my stadium to be curtain-free. I want to be able to walk around my stadium in the off days butt naked if I want to with some glory hole, because damn it, I don't care. It's going to be a beautiful stadium. I want you to use the word majestic, Brian, because if you want to keep your job, the sunlight is majestic. I mean, it just feels like it's like Tua earlier this week, right? And calling out guys for not showing up to meetings. And he comes out later and he's like, I want to apologize. I am very sorry for calling out my teammates. Where somebody gets in his ear, it's like somebody got in Brian Schottenheimer's ear, and they're just like, you make sure you talk about how majestic and beautiful that sunlight is. And it is just only in Dallas would this be a conversation.
Man, it's hilarious, and frankly, it's a good ad spot because you could have the official, blinds company of AT&T Stadium or the Cowboys or whatnot. So it's a great ad spot. I'm surprised that he hadn't taken advantage of that. But man, I wonder at what point is it approximately 4:45 p.m. Eastern that the sun will be glaring through. So therefore, we're going to pivot our plan to everybody's going to hold our hands up when we throw the pass so that we can block the ball, and you can see. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. They're going to talk about this thing. Hopefully Washington's up. I don't want it to affect us at all. To get out there and just play some football because hey, sun shining on everybody, Nick. Sun shining on everybody. Sun gonna shine on a dog ass too. You know what I mean? That's just how it's gonna happen. Since we throwing out country terms and country twang, the sun's gonna shine on the dog's ass too. It's gonna shine through that light. It's gonna shine on the dog's ass in the same day.
That's something I haven't heard in a while, but it's a great expression, and I think
it always applies to something.
It does, doesn't it? It always does.
I don't know what it means, but it works.
Well, there's certainly some things we can get into that if you really want to dig deep into a dog's ass. I mean, I'll go get my dog, bring her up here, and we'll see if the sunlight shines on her ass. All right, so we know the sunlight could be a factor in this game. We know that both offenses certainly have quarterbacks that can put up points. We know now that Terry McLaurin is officially out Sunday against Dallas. Dan Quinn has made that official. As of now, it looks like everybody else, including Deebo Samuel, is in. That should be the case. When you look at this game, when you look at everything that we know at this point, as of Friday, as we're doing this show, whether you're watching live or listening back, watching back later, this is where we are as you and I talk about this. What happens in this game?
Man, I think you end up seeing the greatness of Jayden Daniels, right? You see this guy step up to the occasion and really elevate this offense. Even when you don't have your best out there, I think that you find him showing his leadership and bouncing back from what was a pretty rough ending to a game on Monday night. He shows up in the prime time. He shows up in that early afternoon game and is just surgical and maniacal about how he addresses this matchup. So I think you see the greatness in Jayden Daniels, how he's going to operate this offense. You're not going to discount what the Dallas offense is going to do. They're going to still have some success. But I think ultimately Jayden Daniels will find a way to push his team past the Dallas Cowboys here on Sunday. Sun and all, he's going to find a way to make it happen.
I think this is a big Jayden Daniels game. I think he's going to have to run the ball double digits. We're talking well over 10 carries, probably closer to the 13, 14, 15 range. I mentioned his rushing yards at this point. FanDuel's got it at 45.5. I think he's going to need to get closer to 50. I think he's going to go over that. I think this is going to be a lot of Jacory, Croskey, Merritt, too. I think Bill runs the football well. I think he really rebounds against this Dallas team because let's remember Rico Dowdle did. Now, I know it was a revenge game against Carolina, but he had 239 total yards from scrimmage. That was an insane game. I'm not saying that Bill is going to have that much, but what I am saying is he's going to be used as a receiver, especially with Terry McLaurin out. He's going to run the football. If Washington can get up early and, God forbid, actually have a game where they lead after the first quarter, maybe it's tied. That would be nice for a change. You can establish the run a little bit more. We see maybe some Chris Rodriguez out there. I don't know what to make of what Deebo is going to look like because this heel injury sounds like it's certainly affecting him. We didn't see the normal Deebo against Chicago, so maybe he is more in the range of a decoy. But this feels like a shootout, even with Terry McLaurin out. It's not like this Washington offense hasn't dealt with that in already, but you've got a couple of really good receivers on the other side. But this comes down to special teams too. That short field, if Washington get a couple of shorter fields and eat some clock and keep that Dallas offense off of the field on top of that, those are the little things I think that'll make a difference in this game. I do think Washington will win, and I'm not being fanboy on this because you know me at this point. I mean, I've suffered through years of terribles, so I've talked about this team into the worst of the worst. They are the better team, and they've played without Terry McLaurin plenty this year, but those are the factors that are really going to matter in this game. I also think it's a very, very high-scoring game. We're talking like 35-30 when it's all said and done.
A lot of points on the board. But you got to score every possession. Blaine is saying it. That's the truth, right? And I mean, I love you talk about the special teams. Washington is number one in the league on yards per kick return at 33. All right, they have a long of I think 69. So I'd love to see. Hey, go ahead and put one in the end zone. That's the way you steal a possession. If you don't get a turnover, get a special teams touchdown. That can work as well.
And that's what we need. We will be back after Commanders Cowboys on Sunday for our post-game show. David will be with us after he handles that. Derwin Gray is also going to join us as well. Anthony, let's hope we're talking about a win when this is all said and done. The Cowboys will be sitting at 2-4-1 at that point, and hopefully Jera's talking about the Sun. Follow us on everything, Instagram, all the socials. Make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Commanders podcast. We are a part of all of that here. We will talk to you on Sunday.